Okay. How's everyone doing? Phew. Wednesdays are exhausting. Okay. So we're going to have a pretty full class. We've got space in our class, but we have, I think, now a full class because we've had some shifting between sections. So if you're coming into class, half the people that are in digital photography are in workflow, so you can just find an open computer and come on in, because it will be full by the time we're done. So let's see here. I want to first see how everyone's importing stuff went, if there are any major questions. I do want to show and make sure that everyone was able to export. We had a great number of people coming in and out of Flex Lab on Monday, and some good questions. So I wanted to make sure the exporting of the catalog was the biggest question. So I did want to walk you through that right at the beginning to make sure that you have everything set and submitted to the server correctly, and kind of clear up any confusion and things like that, hopefully. So before I show you how to export the catalog, were there any pressing questions or issues that you ran into that you weren't sure what to do with or how to fix? Anything like that?
Is any way that you can I don't know, program your computer to export to many places at the same time?
You can, in the import menu, you can tell it to import to 2 places at one time if you want to. So when you import, if you have wherever you're importing to and a backup drive, you can have it import to both at the same time, which is not a bad idea based on my hard drive crashing on Monday and losing a year of editing, because I thought it was backing up and it turns out it was backing up to my hard drive and not my computer. So I've just been nauseous since Monday. And I think I have all of my sessions because my hard drive was also not backing up like I thought it was. So doing backing up in both spots at the same time, not a bad idea. The export part, not really. You can only export to one spot at a time because it's kind of like a save as, just for special, depending on what you're exporting is basically what it is. But yeah, so you can definitely import to 2 places at once, but exporting is going to be 1. We can also change and adjust backups, which is another thing we'll be talking about too as we go on. Yeah.
On here, it shows that there's screenshots on there, but when I actually go into it on your server, it's not showing the screenshot.
So are you on the server when you're looking?
This is from my hard drive right here.
Your hard drive.
See, make sure
Okay.
it's under the right file, and then on the hard drive.
You're right, it's not showing at all. So drag it from your hard drive into that folder on the server. And maybe it just didn't copy correctly, or I don't know. Let's see if it shouldn't give you any errors. Import org. I do have screenshots in there. Yep, I do have screenshots. So it should, the folder is just pictures. So I'm going to show you what this looks like when we export. If you need a reference in the future, I do have that document typed up on Blackboard for you guys. So it is in our digital workflow class. It's just hanging out in class materials by itself, so it's easier to find. So you will see an export Lightroom catalog document. I mentioned it briefly, but we were kind of running out of time. And here's all the information for exporting your catalog. So I have a couple of screenshots in it. It should be fairly easy to follow through, but I want to walk you through it just to make sure you're able to export it properly. Now, what we're doing is probably, bless you, not something that you do all the time with your work. You're typically exporting the images. But because we're just going to keep working in this same catalog that you created and just keep adding to it, or just using the same images and just creating different collections maybe, we just want to pull out the portion of that catalog that you need to submit for your assignments. So while right now it probably looks like you're just duplicating your catalog because it's probably all you have in it, as we add more stuff to it, you'll find that what we're actually doing is just pulling a piece of it out. So what we're doing is in here, if this is my catalog, and I have a couple of collections created. So I have, let's see, let's say this is my thing right here. Actually, I can't do that one. That's missing images. All right, do I have anything? Got Alex's pictures. All right, I'll just use Alex's. Those are missing too. What the heck? All right, hold on. Let me just get a handful of photos here into a collection so that I have what I need to show you. Collection 1, and I'm going to grab a handful and do collection 2. Okay, so what you guys are going to have is you're going to have 2 collections in your library. You're going to have your import that has however many images you imported, your 30, 20, 50, whatever you put in. And then you're going to have a second one that is just your organization picks, your 5, or some people had a few more than that, which is fine. So what we want to do is we want to export those 2 collections as one whole catalog in itself. So what you need to do when you export, now sometimes you'll only have 1 collection you have to export. In this case, we have 2 because we imported and then we went through and picked. What I need to do is I need to shift click the 2 collections that I want to export so that I'm telling Lightroom just this piece of it. Now I go to the File menu and I go Export as Catalog. And it's basically bringing up a Save As window is what it is. So what do I want to call it and where do I want to save it? So we called this one, just like all the work you do in your classes, you do your last name, first letter of your first name, and then whatever it is. This one I think I said import org is what we called it. And then we just got to pick a spot to put it. Now you will eventually put that onto the server. What I would recommend not doing is choosing the server as the spot to save it right off the bat. So I wouldn't go to gbxserve2, get into our class folder and save it right there. I have found we get errors every once in a while when we do that. So you're better off saving to, like your desktop temporarily, your hard drive, whatever, and then copying it to the server outside of Lightroom. It'll cause you less errors. So I'll just do it to the desktop for just this example. But here's the big piece, and I put this in this document too because it's a very important piece. At the bottom, there are several checkboxes here. What you want to make sure you're doing, the biggest piece is that you have the export negative files checked. Because what we're doing is your catalog is referencing your images, let's say on your hard drive. When you submit your catalog to me, I don't have your hard drive. I hope I don't have your hard drive. That means you left it here and it's sitting here. So I don't have your hard drive, but I still need those images to connect so that I can see when we start doing edits and that kind of stuff. I can't do any grading without the images once we get past our organization stuff and move on to editing. So it's important to make sure your export negative files is checked. That way what it does is kind of creates a package deal. So it creates your catalog and then it packages your images, a copy of them. It's not moving them, don't panic. It's just copying them into a folder all as one. So you can move it as one unit and the images will be there when I grade it. So that's why that step is important. So making sure that export negative files is checked is the biggest piece. The other ones, it would just be like selected files. I don't want to check export selected because I need to export the 19 files here and I have 7 images selected right here. If I have that button checked, it's going to export both collections, but only the 7 images that I have selected. So I'm going to be missing the other 12. So in this case, just having the collection set and export negative files, that's what I want. I want to uncheck my selected photos because that would not work. Then I just choose where, desktop for this case, export. It goes fast, depending on how many images you have. You'll see that progress bar. And then it's there somewhere. Here it is.
So do we have to do that for the last? No.
For the one that you're submitting today, yes. That's what you want to make sure that you do. Because in there, then everything is there.
Because I send it through the server. Is different?
Is your stuff up
And
here,
the first
Lena?
one is
Yours
Another
is,
the one they
maybe.
have a red dot.
Oh, there it is. I didn't see the whole name. That's why I'm like, where is it? No, it looks like those are the pictures. Screenshots. Yeah, it looks like everything's there. Yep, it looks right. Yep, you should be good. So you'll have, yeah, and you can stick your screenshot right in this folder for this one too. So you'll have your Lightroom catalog, and then you'll have the folder with the copied images in there. So that way, when you drag this whole folder to the server, it all links with inside this folder, and I don't need your hard drive to grade. So that's the purpose of doing it that way.
I don't know what I did wrong, but in my organization and my organization pics are only 7 picturable files, so I suppose they're the same
You may have had the export selected photos only chosen when you did it. You may have, so it only chose those if you happen to have them selected. So that could be what happened. So yeah, just make sure that you either have nothing selected or that you uncheck that box. So that's the big piece. Now you can copy that whole folder to the server. One thing, lots of questions that I had was opening that to check it once it's on the server. It's not going to work.
I'm only exporting one picture. Clearly wrote something wrong.
Do you have your catalog open? Okay. So it's all okay. So is this your catalog right here? Okay, so you have that. Oh yeah, because it has the check. So when you go to export, go to file and export as catalog. Uncheck that first one because you have that one selected, so it's only doing the one. So if you do it again, it should work. Perfect. Thank you.
Do I need to return these?
Yes, I take those. Yep, from those two.
Is there any questions on the bulk?
Nope. Should just be those boxes.
Yeah. So I exported mine at home. Do you want, are you able to just quick check and see? Because I'm pretty sure those things were checked, but I'm not.
Let's see, so when you go in, let's see, the easiest way to check that, where is your, there it is. You have a bunch of images in here, so chances are, there's 31 images in here, so that's probably right, is my guess. Yeah, if you have to check anything on your stuff, once you get it to the server and Lightroom don't like each other. Basically what it is there's a certain algorithm written into Lightroom for catalogs that doesn't talk well with servers. So we can't double click your catalog once it's on the server and expect it to open. It will give us an error. And I know a few of you discovered that already. What you would have to do is actually copy it down to a hard drive, the desktop, whatever, and open it from there. That's what I have to do when I grade everything. Copy it to a drive, open it from a drive, because the server will not open Lightroom catalogs. So if you did want to check it once you get it up there, drag it to the desktop, check it, and if it's right on your desktop, then you're fine. But it's showing 31 images, so chances are it should be correct. But I'd have to copy the whole thing down to look at it. So, but it looks like it's fine. I mean, just glancing at it, you don't have just one image, so that's a good thing. So the export catalog is a little weird, but it really, really is just because we have to put the stuff on the server and I only need those little portions of it. But what's cool too is if I were to have a catalog here and I import some stuff and I work on it and then I want to take that home, but there's other stuff on here that I don't need, I could just export that one thing that I'm working on, session, whatever it is, handful of images, as a new catalog. and then I can actually import that into my catalog at home if I have a different one. So when you're in Lightroom, Lightroom has an option under import. It says import from another catalog. And then you can select it and it adds it to your current one. So it doesn't have to be a completely separate thing. It simply just adds it in. So it's basically like taking a folder and adding it to a hard drive. You're taking a collection of images and you're adding it to your catalog is what you're doing. So that import from catalog allows you to do exactly that. So let me get, not my hard drive because that doesn't work. From scratch. I can't wait to have time to see what images I actually have and what actually backed up because I'm so nauseous with my hard drive being dead and losing all my edits. At least it's my edits and not my originals, but what is on this card? We're gonna find out. All right, so today's goal. So once we're set with that and copy that to the server, we are good to go. But we can grow your current catalog by using those same images to do some of the things that we do as we go on. Did I ask you to pull up that? That was weird. Oh, it's defaulting. Okay, I'm like, what is it doing? Never mind, figured it out. So today what we want to do is we want to we're going to have a conversation about keywording just a little bit because that's going to be part of what you do today. It was in the chapter that we discussed last week, but I skipped over it because we wanted to expand a little bit more this week with that. And then what we're going to do is move into, if I can get to my chapter here, move into chapter 3 a bit. And there's a few pieces within this chapter that we want to kind of point out more on the customizing end of Lightroom and how we can get it to look and show the information that we need it to in order to get what we need. So we're going to pull some of that stuff out and talk a little bit more with collections and different things you can do. So that's going to be our goal today with the time that we have. First thing to kind of talk about and think about and things like that is keywording. So like I said, I skipped over that last week. You did a little bit with keywording within your assignment. When you were in the import menu, you added one keyword. And then afterwards with your with the images that you picked, you were able to add a second keyword to that. So we want to think about that keywording process. The question is, does anyone in here use keywording now for whatever stage you're at in your photography? Do you keyword stuff? You do keyword stuff. Yes. What do you do? Do you do specific, do you have a structure to it? Do you, is it just
I don't
chaos?
do it like when I'm editing.
Okay.
Because I just flag them or rate them and then I filter it to see the ones that I want so I don't have to look at the rest.
Perfect.
And usually I'm not editing like so many that I would need to search. But I will, so I'll upload Flickr. I'll upload to Flickr and
Yes.
I'll keyword when I upload them with
Perfect.
just basic ones. It's not
Yeah.
like individual photos, but like
Yeah.
if it's a family session, I'll type in family.
Perfect. Perfect. That's good. Now, what do you do with yours? You said you did some keywording too.
I just kind of apply as many keywords as I can but not overdoing it, kind of stay within the same, use the same ones over and over.
Yes, exactly. So there's power to keywords. When you are searching on the internet for something, you search and it searches for keywords. We have images and pixels, and yes, eventually we'll be able to search those pixels to recognize faces and stuff like that. But we want to be able to search, we want keywords or words attached to our image so that we can search them. Now, you can come up with a big old file structure and preload it into Lightroom if you want to, so that as you start typing words, or if you want to attach a whole set of keywords at one time, you can do that in Lightroom. Like, there's a lot of power to adding keywords in here, maybe beyond what most of us will probably do with keywords. However, certain areas of photography are going to require more searchability than other areas, like if it's just a family or a children or a senior and that stuff, that's pretty straightforward. But if you're doing landscape stuff or even fine art stuff, you know, you get potentially a client who says, I want to buy some of your work, I want it to hang here. Here is the color scheme of my room. You have tens of thousands of landscape images or whatever it is, and now you have to find yellow because that's their accent color. So they want to see a handful of your favorite yellow images so that they can choose which one they're going to purchase to put on their wall. So when you do that type of photography, you might have to key your images a little bit differently. You might tag yellow, flower, water. You might tag some of that more defined information because when you go to search later on through your tens of thousands of images, you're going to be thankful that you can just type yellow and then here's everything yellow that you have photographed. So think about that type of photography that you do and maybe some of the keywords that you would choose. Part of your assignment is going to be to kind of brainstorm a big old list of things. And it can be fairly simple, but it could be fairly detailed depending on your needs or what you think you might eventually get to. And then it's a matter of putting it into Lightroom. So there is actually a whole process to adding these keywords in on the fly and just preloading, basically, is what it is. And keywords have two different things. And again, if my hard drive wasn't dead, I had a really good little list to show you. Okay, so let me just quickly import Bergman Shannon. I want to create that. I'm just going to do this because I got to do this anyway since I have to do everything all over again. Keywords, maternity. So there's some keywords that I have pre-built that I just use all the time. Like this is a maternity session, so I just type maternity. Like we did last week, something generic in the import window would be a keyword that is for all the images that we have. We would have to go into individual images or select a smaller group of images to keyword them differently if we wanted to. If it was a little bit more specific but didn't apply to the whole that I'm importing. So I'm going to find a spot. Let's just do this. Okay. Import. Yep, we're going to do that. Okay, so while that's importing. So in the develop module, or the library module, not develop. In the library module, on the left side, this is where all your keywords are. Now, you have a few more options that we didn't walk through. You have the keywording, so you've got the box that you just type in, separate by a comma, and then type away and put all your keywords in. There are some pre-built keywords in Lightroom, so it will populate certain ones. And it might even make suggestions based on what you've imported before or what else is in your library, that kind of stuff. Where if sky, water, windmill, I mean, this is all from something else. If one of these images has a sky in it, I can click sky and it will just automatically populate those keywords so I don't have to type. So I can just click through the suggestions and on it goes. We also have keyword sets. This is where we can kind of pre-populate stuff. So for example, this one I built in here, but we have some that are pre-built in here, like wedding. If you do wedding photography, you could populate all of the keywords that you might use for wedding. You have a whole big, it's like your catalog. You have a whole big thing of images that you organize down into collections and other things and other ways that you organize. It's the same thing with keywords. We have a whole big group of keywords, but we can create sets so that we can, it's basically like a folder of keywords. Think of it that way. If you can remember that, you're good. So that we can have a set of images and then we can select from that set. The keyword list is where we actually create this stuff. So you will see in the keyword list a little plus sign, and you can create as many keywords as you want. So I can just hit a plus. I can type in a keyword. I don't know, baby, do I have that one in there? It'll yell at me if I do have it in there. And then you do have options for your keyword tagging, like when you export, do you want to include it? That would save you when you're uploading to Flickr. If it's in here, it would pull those through and automatically attach those keywords when you upload to Flickr or wherever else. So you have a few things right off the bat. You can even type in synonyms. So if you are typing tiny creature, it could be a synonym to baby. And as you start typing tiny creature, baby will pop up. So you can make this whatever you want. I don't know anyone that really goes into synonyms. They just type the word and decide if it's going to export or not, and it's good to go. But then when you create it, it adds it to your overall list here. On the right side, it tells you how many images are tagged with that particular keyword. The nice thing about pre-populating stuff is it lessens the chance to misspell a keyword and then have like baby with 2 B's accidentally and then baby spelled correctly. And then when you filter through it, you can't find what you want because some of your keywords are spelled incorrectly. Because once they're in there and you start typing, you'll see it show up. So if I were to type baby in here, as I start typing, you see it brings up keywords that I have used or that are in my keyword list so that I can just click and then not worry about misspelling something. So that is a nice feature. Creating the keyword set is the part that gets a little bit trickier. So, oh, that's not what I wanted here. So what you want to do is if you want to create a set, so if I want a set of wedding, like I know I have wedding up here already, but let's just say, okay, I'll use a children because I know that one's not all in here already. If I want to create a set for children, I can create a keyword called children, and that will eventually become my set. So I have children, but if I right-click children, I can create a keyword tag inside children. The second I create a keyword inside another one, that first one becomes the keyword set, basically. It's basically the name of your folder. Think of it that way. So my folder for keywords is officially named children. And anything I put inside there now becomes like a sub-keyword of that one to select. It doesn't really prevent you from using children by itself. Anything in there and then it attaches children. It's not going to do that. They still operate individually. It's more of a visual organization for you to find things is really all it is.
What is the difference between go to this step or a step to just put it in the keyword tags, just click it? What is the difference between both?
This allows you just to click and attach if you want to, rather than type. So once on my dead hard drive, I have a set that's called children, and then I have baby, toddler, and then in my collection or in my catalog, I have the stuff for my own children. So I actually have a keyword for each of my own children in there. And I should maybe grab one of my cards with pictures of them because I'll show you something that would work well. So that as I attach a keyword, here, let me just put each child in here. As I attach a keyword to an image, my suggestions will automatically populate the keywords within that set or that folder. Okay. So if I attach children, it'll start showing baby, toddler, Cameron, Kellen, Marcus, so that as I'm going through my images, I can go, oh, click, 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 and they're all there. So it just makes suggestions a little bit easier. So that's really kind of part of that purpose too. Now children appears as a little drop-down thing in itself, and then inside there is everything that I create. So I can create one for each child. Oops, helps if I spell their own names right. Oh, crud. Whoop. Inside. And then I can do baby, I can do toddler. Oh my goodness, what did I just do? Here's to person keywords. Undo, undo. I got click happy. There we go, baby. And then the only thing that Lightroom does that's just a little bit frustrating is that if you put a keyword, so I have baby up here, and I typed baby inside this set, it considers them two separate keywords. Yeah, that's the thing that sucks. So you'll see it says I haven't tagged any baby, but up here, I've tagged this one baby. So it is a little strange that it does that, and I'm sure there's a quick cleanup for it that they've probably added, and I just don't know about. But this is, yeah, I believe there's a tiny incremental update that we don't have, because I think we have like 10.2 or 3? 10.3. No, that should be the most recent.
If you press person, that we is talking about that is a person or an animal or something.
Yeah, so
Or
you
is-
can make it anything.
No, but they say person like a underscore synonymous. Person,
Yeah.
Like a, when it's a kid or no, or you're not referring to that. Right?
Or are you talking more of like the face recognition?
No, I don't know. It's like they say tag options. They say include underscore contain.
Oh,
It's for synonymous and person.
gotcha. So when you are,
For example, in children.
so if in here, are you saying the last
person.
one?
No. It's
Oh,
synonymous
person, yes. So if you are often photographing the same people, like when I photograph my own children, you can mark that as a person, and then the face tagging or the face recognition feature in there ties the keywords in as it's recognizing the names. Once you tag it as a person, it now operates as a keyword and for facial recognition. So yeah. So have a love-hate relationship with this keyword list. I want to show you that it's there because there's 1,000 different ways to add your keywords. Most of us are just going to start typing in here or going through the suggestions. You can also, from these lists, I could just click the box to the left of any keyword. You can see that these have check marks next to it. Those are the keywords that I have attached to that particular image already that I have selected. So the check marks, if I wanted this one to say sky also, I can, in sky, just click the check box and you'll see it added sky in my keyword, in my list. So if you're a person that just likes to go check, 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 those are my keywords and I'm done, that's the way to do it. Go to this keyword list and go check, 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 and you're done. If you just like to start typing and then hit return every time the suggestions come up and it's the right one, type away in here. You're just going to find what works best for you. I just want you to know the variety of options that are available for it. Yeah, Erin.
We found out when we unit it that they all have to be selected if you had.
Yes, if you do want something selected to multiple images, so if these all needed to be sky images because the sky is included, you can do it individually. It's just going to take you longer. But if you were to select them, like I just command clicked all of these images, I can then choose sky, and then it would attach it to all of those images. So now all 6 of these images have the sky attached to it. If you have multiple images selected, and it shows you this when you mouse over, it tells you that warning. Anytime you have an asterisk, so like baby, I have an asterisk on, that means it's only tagged in maybe a couple of the images. It's not all of them. So I probably only have 1 or 2 images that have the tag baby. But because I have a selection, it's showing me all of the keywords that are attached to those selected images. The asterisk just means it's not all of them. Just a few of them have that attached. But maternity and sky, all 6 images I have selected have that keyword attached to it, if that makes sense. So it is faster to select a group of images and just attach a keyword. So that's kind of the rundown basics of the keyword. Like I said, it's way more over the top than most of us are going to do, but I do want you to think over this next week of what type of keywords might you need to attach to your images. So part of your assignment is going to be to kind of brainstorm that and then stick those keywords into a list right off the bat so that you have them there. I mean, maybe you'll use them, maybe you won't, but I want you to make it usable. So make it so it's something you can use when you do that part of the assignment, not just because I'm making you do it.
When I do like the find faces ones, because I usually end up having my daughter with me anywhere I'm going, so she gets photographed a lot.
A lot.
Between everything else. So if I have her tagged, I can separate her from like all my actual like
Yeah.
other stuff. So they don't,
Yep.
so my school stuff isn't just flooded with
Yes.
pictures too.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it serves a lot, keywording serves a lot of purposes rather than just, I mean, up at the, so here's one way that keywords can help you. In your keyword list, I could say right here, this one's tagged Maple Levi. There's a little arrow on the right-hand side, and when you mouse over it and hold it there, it says show tagged images. So it's a quick way to filter to say, oh, here's all my sky images, and click on it, and it automatically creates the filter so that here's the 7th sky image. So I have, out of my entire catalog, I have 7 images tagged sky. So by clicking that, I just very quickly filter to just the images with those tags. So if I'm looking for that yellow thing for that person's house, all I have to do is click the arrow next to yellow, and then it filters just to yellow, so that's all that I see. That's one way of using it. There's even more powerful ways that keywords will be used. So I'll come back to the keywords when we do a smart collection shortly. I don't remember where. I want to try and attempt to follow the order of the book here as much as I can.
I feel like I'm gonna like mess up and like somehow like check all the photos to one keyword.
And you can undo it. You can undo it. So that's always the nice thing.
No, I'm not gonna realize it until after.
Till after, I know. That's always the hard thing. And that's a good thing about the list too, is that you can see the number of photos that are tagged that. And if you're like, that seems a little high. Out of 300 pictures, 200 pictures are tagged maternity. I don't know if that's right. I may have tagged some of the headshots maternity. So you can filter and look at least. Then you can also select those images if they are incorrect and delete it from all the images at the same time. So that is a nice thing. Okay, so moving into chapter 3 with some of these advanced features. I'm not going through tethering in this class because we do that in advanced photography. And by the time you get to advanced photography, 90% of the people have had workflow already. So we tether in there. So as we're shooting, we're doing a lot of that tethering. So don't worry about that part of it. If you have an interest in it now, and you're not even in that class or haven't taken that class, you can certainly walk through. It's a very easy thing to set up, honestly. But know that we'll do a lot of tethering in that class. So I'm just going to skip it there so we don't have a ton of duplication. I'm also going to skip over this little portion because I know there's not a lot of graphic designers in this class or people that come from a design background, but you as a photographer, there's a section on 82 that says using image overlay to see if your images fit a layout. If you decide to do commercial photography, you can actually get a layout, like let's say it's a magazine cover. That's the example that he uses in the book. You can actually get the layout of the magazine cover and temporarily overlay it on top of your image to make sure that your composition and how you've cropped it or whatever fits within there so that when it goes to be put into the actual layout, you know it's going to fit. So I think designers are probably going to use that more than photographers. Typically, you just have to send your stuff to a designer and they work with it and do what they need to do. However, you may come across a time where someone's like, please make sure this fits, and then you have to do that. This is a newer feature in Lightroom that wasn't in previous versions. I can't remember when they added this, but know that there is an overlay option. So you have to set your file up a certain way. It has to be a PNG file so that you get the transparency of the empty background and then overlay it.
For some reason,
It's
I
cool.
Like, because of like the JPEG, I don't want the compressed stuff. I actually I save most of my stuff in like PNG. Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
like
you
a-
can certainly do that. Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
a lot larger.
TIFFs, JPEGs, yeah.
TIFFs I tried. It was like
They're
one pixel.
massive. They're almost more than your raw files,
It is
depending on what you do.
It's like 129.
It's insane. TIFF files are crazy big. TIFF files will let you save your layers too, though.
True. And it's, I guess, for printing, but if you want to print.
Yeah, it's really good for printing. Printing photography, we don't even need a TIFF for it, but it's possible. So I'm going to skip over that layout thing, but I want to point out creating your own custom file nameplates. So when you're working within, and you kind of sort of did this last week when you were doing your naming, but when I had you rename your files, we picked an existing one. But let's say, and I mentioned it briefly last week, but just to make sure everyone knows where to find it, you can, when you rename images for whatever file structure, naming structure you've created, if you rename your images right off the bat, or you go into library and rename photos and want to do it there, I want you to know that you can create a lot of your own templates. And naming files is one of those things. So you're not limited to one of the options that are there. If you were to go to, now he's got a lot of the quick keys in here. You can do this in several places. You can do this from the import menu. So when you're importing a set of images, where it has rename files and you have a template drop down, some of you imported from a camera card, so you did it this way. You have an option at the bottom that says edit, and that will bring you to the same menu as the other spot I'm going to show you. So you can create them on the fly as you need them. That's what's nice about it. From the import menu or under library and rename photos, when you have that pop up, you have the edit option down there. So regardless of where you're getting to it, you can do this whenever you need to create something.
So, for example, you are like renaming that like a pregnancy or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever pregnancy pictures or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to label it, maybe you just wanted it to be called maternity and then a number, or maybe their name and a number. You could probably just use the sequential options that are in here. So you could do like a custom name and then the sequence, which is what you did in your assignment. So it just renumbers everything. You could choose to keep the original file name, but maybe you want something more specific at the beginning, like the date or the person or place or whatever it is. You want to identify that part of it. So you can do that. There's some of those features. But if none of those fit, what you do is in here, this is basically your I don't even know what to call it. This is where you drop in exactly how you want it to look. Just know that any key that you hit basically records in there. So if I'm going to start this one from scratch. So if I want it to say, I want a custom name. I want to call it something. No, let's do this. I want the date first. I want the date and then a custom name and then a number. Maybe that's exactly how I want it to be. So I can come in here. I can choose any one of these options. There are more options underneath each of these drop downs. So there's date, but I'm not limited to date by it's showing just the year right now. I have a variety of different ways to show the date if I want to. I would stay away, just as a little hint, from things that add commas, weird characters, that kind of stuff. Anytime you have to upload your images to the web, or sometimes even between servers, Mac, PC, weird characters don't carry over well and could potentially not copy, and you think it did, and then you find out it didn't. Or it throws an error, or we have one server, this is why we have all these extra hard drives for students to check out. When you put a file from one of our audio classes onto the server corrupts the entire project and wipes it clean. So if you didn't back it up anywhere, you have 16 hours of music production down the tubes. So staying away from any characters is what I would recommend, commas, that kind of stuff. So things like the year, month, date, where it's just all the numbers in a row, that's a good idea. It could just be year, month, date, where it's all 2-digit numbers, whatever you choose. So that, and it'll show you an example based on your images or what you have selected. It'll always show you the example. Now, if you want spaces, underscores, dashes, that kind of stuff, if you do want some of that in there, you have to actually type that in this box. So if I add the date and then I want an underscore to separate, because on the web doesn't like spaces either, so an underscore is kind of our workaround for a space when it comes to putting things on the web. So I can do an underscore, and then I can put the next thing in there. So, but if I wanted a space, I'd have to hit the space bar so that it shows up. But I'll just do an underscore. And then I want the, let's see, I want a custom text because I want to type in something. So I'll hit insert. And then I'll do another underscore. And then maybe I just want a sequence. So I want it to be a 3-digit number because I could easily take 100 pictures every time I shoot. So I might want it to be a 3-digit number. So I'll do the sequence that has the 3 digits in the parentheses. So there we go. So this would be the renaming structure of it. It would be date, underscore, custom name, whatever I type in, underscore, and then a sequential number, 3-digit sequential number. And that's how it would rename my files. So I can create that as a template. Under the drop-down, there is Save Current Settings as New Preset. And I will call this Date Custom Sequence. I don't know. You can make up whatever you want. It can just be my file names. But whatever it is, you want to give it a date, or I mean a name. Now, when you go to do your imports or wherever you do your renaming, it's going to show up in that drop-down list. So now it shows up on that computer for all eternity or until it crashes. So this does not transfer between computers. It's going to be on the computer you created in. There is a lovely little checkbox I will show you that carries that stuff across. It embeds it in your catalog. If you use one catalog, there's a way to embed that stuff. So I'll show you that, but we'll get to that. Too confusing if I throw that at you now. So that's all you have to do. Then it's done. Now I can type in whatever I want. I can call it personal branding, because that's the class we photographed the images for. So I could say the personal branding class, you know, it's going to be the date it was photographed, personal branding, and then the number. And then I hit OK and it renames. I'm not going to hit OK because I have the wrong images highlighted. But that's how you would create that template. And even if I cancel, it's still there.
When it press, for example, the date or whatever, do we take the date that the picture was taken, or but I have to put it by myself, or they will like a read?
It will do it. Yep. So it will pull the data from the pictures, and whatever date you took it is the date it will put on there. So you don't have to worry about that.
About this, no, they don't take the date of import.
Yeah, whenever you decide to attach it, I mean, you could do it at the end of your workflow, like before you export, maybe you rename everything, or maybe you do it in import. At whatever stage you do it, it will always look back to the original picture and find that information. So the only time you ever type something in is if it's a custom text. Otherwise, Lightroom will automatically, whatever you put in there, pull the metadata from the camera or a sequential number or whatever it is. It does it automatically, so you do nothing. Makes it fast. So this is one way of customizing. We have so many different ways of customizing.
Adobe, 1,000,000 ways to do one.
Exactly. It's every Adobe product. A million ways to do the same thing. So, so a couple different ways to get to that spot where you can create that. Another template that you can create is doing the metadata templates. Now you guys kind of sort of did it as part of your assignment. You may or may not have saved it, and that's okay. It was more the process of finding where is the metadata for that assignment more than anything. So to create a metadata template, we can do that in a few places too. The metadata template, a lot of times we're doing from the import menu. If I I could change that there. No, I'm thinking the wrong spot. Maybe that one I do have to do. No, metadata. I want to save, read, import keywords. I don't want to sync, edit metadata presets. There it is. I knew it had to be in a menu somewhere. So in the import menu, where you guys were adding metadata to your images, that's one spot to do it. That drop-down menu has the same thing, edit preset. And it will pop up the same window. If I'm just in Lightroom and I want to set up a metadata preset, when we export, we can attach metadata to it. We can attach it during import. So there's several different spots in our workflow where we can attach that. So if I am getting ready to export and I'm like, okay, these are going on the web. I want to make sure that the copyright usage has some information in that part of it. My copyright's attached to it, my contact information, all that good stuff. I can edit my metadata presets from the metadata menu, and it's about halfway down. And it will pop up the same window that you probably saw when you were doing your assignment. So now I can create however much metadata that I want here. However much, little, whatever it is that I need, I can attach. The thing to know is no matter what you type anywhere, whatever is checked, whatever checkboxes are checked on the right-hand side, those are the ones that are included in your preset. So like I've attached keywords, and down here it's not checked. So if I wanted those keywords to be part of my preset, like maybe I have a metadata preset for my business for maternity photos. So it attaches my keywords automatically, it attaches my copyright, contact information in the click of a button. Then I don't even have to do keywording because I've done it once in a preset and I never have to do it again. So that's a good thing to do. I mean, you'd have to create multiple presets, obviously, because you'd probably have different ones for different things. But once you do it once, it's one click. So I could include that, but I would have to check that box in order to include that when I save this. But here you just type in anything you want. I mean, it doesn't pay for me to go through all of these because this is just a whole bunch of metadata. You're going to use some, you're not going to use others. I would say your IPTC copyright and IPTC creator are probably the two big sections where you're going to add the most information. Because the copyright allows you to do your copyright symbol and your name or whatever you want that to be. You can even put rights usage terms in there. If I have to deliver a digital file to somebody, whatever my usage agreement is, I copy and paste it right in there, and it attaches it to the metadata of the file. So if maybe they could only use it for, maybe it had to go to a newspaper for something, and that was the only way they could use it, but then they're like, oh, let's get a print of this. It's in the metadata that if a lab's doing what it's supposed to do, that it's flagged as copyrighted in the metadata, and then they'll see the terms of usage, and then they'll say, you can't print this. So it's never bad to add that to it. You know, like if I do allow a client to print images, like if they had a certain size order, I might give them some of their images so that they can print up to a 5x7 or an 8x10 or whatever. And I put right in there, printing only up to this size. So that it says right in there, that's how you can use it. And it's tied to the image, it's embedded in the image. And even though they get a paper copy, you know, they're not going to give that to a lab that they're printing at. They're going to be like, it says 5x7, but I'm printing an 8x10. They're going to try, or they're going to try for the 16x20, and it's going to look like crap because I made them tiny. You can put that in there. It's just kind of another spot, really, is all it is. If you do a certain type of photography where you register your copyright, so if you have certain images that you know could potentially, like you post them and you're afraid that someone's going to take those, you could potentially register those through the U.S. U.S. government copyright, and then you can attach the copyright URL right to your image when you register it. So it's just another safe thing for your image. But just like the naming structure templates at the top, you would just save whatever you create as a new preset. So you could have, now there's no real pre-built presets in Lightroom because Lightroom doesn't know how to populate metadata based on every single person. There's not one set of metadata information that's generic to everyone. I mean, everyone's got a different copyright, everyone's got a different email. So there's no pre-populated ones in there. Only the ones you create will show up in that list then. But that's where you would go to do that. So I highly recommend thinking about those and setting some of those up. You'll be doing some of this stuff, you know, over the next few weeks. But again, more ways to do all the things that we've been talking about. Don't save. So more ways to just kind of customize Lightroom to your liking. How am I doing on time here? Okay. I really want to get to these collections and this part. Just very briefly, I'm only going to just point out that it exists. There is a lights out mode as a view mode. Remember we talked about full screen? We talked about full screen last week. Come on. That if you hit the F key, you can go to full screen mode. There's an option to do kind of just a dimming feature. So if you hit the L for lights out, it dims your panels. So if you're very distracted by everything going on, you can focus by just dimming. It's just turning the lights down, and every time you hit L, it just gets darker. So it goes from kind of maybe like a 60% opacity to completely dark, and then you just cycle through and keep hitting L to get all the way back. So when you're viewing a single image, if you don't want to go to full screen, but you're like, oh man, how's that going to look? You can quickly just dim it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's good. Because sometimes that gray background or whatever you have on there can be a little distracting. I don't know. I find I just use full screen, and it's just as quick, but it's there if you need it. You have to be able to, yeah. Yeah, you'd have to be pretty good to be able to edit in lights out mode. Actually, in lights out mode, maybe it's, is it Shift L? Maybe it's Shift L. There's one where you can actually get your, I'm trying to remember, Shift L just goes straight to full lights out. I could do, what if I did this? If I did, no, Shannon's gonna hate me for using these. If I were to do a Shift Tab like we talked about that hides everything and do lights out, I think so if you wanted to work maybe and edit your photos and stuff like that when we get to it, but you kind of want everything else darker, you can hide all of your tabs. So we talked last week that the tab key hides the sides. Shift Tab hides all four sides. If I go into lights out mode and I have my tabs hidden, when I mouse over, it quickly flips out of lights out mode so that I can do what I need to do. But then when I mouse back, it goes back in. I don't use it, but you might. So that's what it does. Okay, Shift Tab. Now it's just so much smaller. I know, we're spoiled with our big screens. Okay, so what I want to do is talk a little bit more about collections. We've talked about just a collection as a whole and what that does. So we know that it's just kind of like a folder within Lightroom, not a folder on your hard drive, right? We know this. How do I keep using this? This is so much better. There we go. I cannot forget to tell you guys about the Creative Arts Club. I have to leave time for that because I forgot this morning. Okay, so we have collections. So our collections are just a way of organizing our images essentially into kind of like folders or albums, if you want to think of it that way. But just in Lightroom, separate from our file structure on our hard drives where they're stored, just within Lightroom. So if I want a collection maybe for my favorite images from a session, I can create that. If I want a collection for images I might stick in my portfolio, I could create that. So we can just manually drag and drop, and I can have one image in 5 collections if I want to. And it's good. Life is good. But we can take these a step further. We have something called quick collections, and then we have smart collections, and because I want to throw more at you, actually I could throw 2 more at you. We have targeted collections. And the other one is just organizing one step further. It's a collection set. That one's pretty easy to understand. So there's more than what we just did last week. There's quite a bit more. So think of a quick collection and a target collection as something that could be somewhat similar. The way we set it up is very similar, but a quick collection is actually pre-built into Lightroom. You'll see under catalogs, you'll see all your photos, and you'll see a quick collection right in the middle. And you're actually going to see a little plus sign, which means something. And we can change what that plus sign is. But, what? No, the plus sign to create a new collection over here, yes. But the little plus sign that appears next to the name of a collection can move. We can change where that is and what it does. So a quick collection is something that maybe you're going through a set of images and maybe you just want to show somebody a few images really quick. So you can tag those in a way, you can send those to a quick collection so that you can just access them really quick. It's a temporary thing is what it is. You're not going to just save that quick collection and always keep the same images in there. It's kind of like a, sneeze. It's kind of like a quick fix where I just need to quickly separate these images out, do what I need to do, and then make it go away. So if I wanted to very quickly, I just want to show Shannon these pictures because I had them edited and now they're gone. Where'd it go? Seriously, where's Drew? I'll just pick a couple here. That one, and that one. Oh, I imported more than I thought. So what I can do is in a quick collection, when you're in the film strip in the bottom, and I believe if I go back to grid mode, I'll have that too by default. When you're looking at an image, you have a little circle right here, and people accidentally click on it. That is to add your photo to your quick collection. So it's a very quick way to go, oh, I want to show them that one. I want to, if I can get to this, I want to show her this one. I want, not my face, I want this one. I can just very quickly click on those, and now my quick collection has 6 photos in it because I very quickly added those 6. So now I want to show her these. I'm just going to export them and upload them and send her a link. And she can see them really quick. It's her sneak peek. Or maybe I want to upload them to Facebook to my page for my business, and here's a sneak peek for whatever session I did. Like, it's just a real quick little thing. You're not going to keep them there. Eventually, you'll just take them out. But nice quick way to separate them. Yes, pics would probably work the same way, to be honest. I probably use pics more than a quick collection, but depending on your workflow, you may find this to be more beneficial. So it's good to know that it's there. Now that plus key,
So,
go ahead.
so you add that collection and then, that picture will disappear with time, or you have to eliminate it?
No, you would just take it out. Yeah, whenever you're like, okay, we're done. We're done with that. So I could just select all those and take them out.
Okay.
So, and then just use the quick collection the next time for something else if I want to. So you can add or take away. It's just basically a temporary little thing. Now, the plus next to that quick collection, it basically makes it a target collection. This is where I'm going to confuse you. And I apologize in advance. A target collection. Now, where does he get into his target collection? Okay, it's the next section on there. So your quick collection stuff in the book starts on 95. 97 is when we talk about our target collection. Target collections are kind of cool that if I have a bunch of images, I'm just going to go back to all photographs here. If I have a bunch of images, Bergman, and I want to, these images I want to send to a certain collection really quickly. Could be the quick collection folder, that's what it's set to by default. Or maybe I create a collection that's called Sneak Peek. And I always do that with whatever. I'm going to uncheck this for a second. So I have a Sneak Peek folder that I have created. There's nothing in it right now. I can, as I'm flipping through these images, I can go, oh, that one, that one, that one, that one, and quickly send it to the Sneak Peek folder rather than a quick collection. It'd be more of a permanent thing. So if I wanted it to go to that Sneak Peek folder, maybe a portfolio folder, that's a good one. You're going to be creating portfolios as you go through the program. So maybe I have a collection. I keep saying folder, sorry. Maybe I have a collection called portfolio. And as I'm flipping through images, every time I take pictures, I'm like, ooh, that'd be portfolio. I can click it, and I want to add it to that portfolio folder. I would have to drag and drop it to portfolio every time I find a picture that I want to drag to portfolio. But if I make that collection a target collection, I just have to hit one key and it sends it there automatically. So by default, quick collection is set as that target. But if I right click on portfolio, if I go to my portfolio, if I right click on it, I can say set as target collection. And now that I've done that, my plus sign moves there. So you can see it's no longer by the quick collection, it's by portfolio. I can leave it there for all eternity if I want to. My quick collection folder or button will still, oops, as I uncheck that. That little button now, okay, go back, all photographs. This little button here now will now serve as a button that sends it to the portfolio folder. So whatever folder has the plus is the one that button will send it to. The one with the plus sign will be on. It will all go to that folder. So that button changes based on where that plus sign is. This is why I think more people probably don't use the quick collection, because you probably specify what you want. And I think for a lot of people, it's more of a permanent thing rather than the quick collection's kind of temporary. So I think more people use the target. It operates the same, which is why I said they're the same and they're not. Huh? Are you in the collection area or are you in the folders? There's the plus. So, okay, so like your organization picks. If you right click that and then do set as target, it will move your plus down there. Yeah. You might have to just expand that to see the plus, but it's there now. So now my quick collection is my portfolio. So it will change. So if you decide that this is something you want to use, so as I'm flipping through images here, I'm like, okay, that should be a portfolio one. I can click this button, or I can hit the B for boy, which makes no sense whatsoever. when you're thinking targeted collection. It makes absolutely no sense. But the B will automatically send it to whatever folder has the plus sign next to it. So if I want this one, I can hit B. If I want, too far. Oh, I imported everything, didn't I? That was not smart. I can hit B. So I hit the B key. Now I have 3 images in my portfolio folder. It automatically sent it there because it's set as my target. So I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever. Yeah.
So usually the collections are only for that particular catalog, right? Is there any,
Yes.
Is there any way to make them like, if you want a portfolio one, to have it across all your catalogs, so it's like...
No. One thing you could do, though, is a smart collection, which you could set to be the same in all your catalogs to make it fast to get to. And that's one of the next things that I want to talk about is the smart collection. So maybe that would work better. It wouldn't cross over between catalogs still. However, if you set it once, it becomes very automatic that you don't have to do anything. So maybe that would work better across multiple catalogs. So let's talk about that actually, about the smart collection, because that is the next one, is how those operate. I love smart collections. I think they're underutilized. I talk to someone and they're like, I've never used them before in my life. And they use Lightroom all the time. And I'm immediately an over-exaggerated gasp. What do you mean? I love smart collections for a variety of different things. If I want to, okay, so I just updated some of my samples. Here's an example. I needed to update some of my samples. I needed a few more wall prints for some new products that a few labs that I use came out with. I wanted a standout frame. I knew I wanted the bamboo siding on the standout. And so I needed something. So I know I wanted it to be a lighter color image. I typically shoot my babies more on whites and lighter colors. So I thought, perfect, I'm going to have a big picture of a baby with that siding. So I obviously want my sample to be a good picture. So I have a smart collection for newborn photography that are my pics that, and I can basically expand it to be as particular as I want. I could do it on a white background if I went to that degree. And I create a smart collection for it that looks at the metadata of my picture that says, is this tagged to say newborn keyword? Is it marked as a pic? And maybe was it taken within the last year or something? Like I can set as many parameters as I want. It can be pretty ridiculous. And that collection will just automatically, as an image meets that criteria, stick it in there for me. I do nothing but click on that folder and they're all there and the angels sing and all this stuff. I don't have to do anything. So I love smart collections for that exact reason. So that as I'm building, like I have to redo my wedding sample books. So I want to do that. So I tagged certain wedding images and stuff for a variety of images in those books, and it automatically goes, as long as they're tagged wedding and a pic, they automatically go straight to that book or to that collection, and then I pull those images as the ones I use in the book for my samples. So they make filtering very easy and quick. Now to create those, it's just that one-time thing. So maybe if you do that portfolio one across all of your catalogs, if you have different ones, you just set up that smart collection once, and then you just go into that catalog, click it, and then there's all your pictures. But you would have to go into each catalog. So that is still the downfall. I think it's going to be a little bit quicker though. So you'll see when you go to add a collection, you may have noticed this last week, that right below it is Create Smart Collection. And when you do that, you now set all the criteria that you want. So I can say, I want my smart collection to be named Portfolio. And my portfolio images, I want it to match all of the criteria, because if it doesn't match all of it, it's not portfolio quality. I want it to, now I don't use ratings, I use pics. So I want an image that is flagged as a pic, meaning it should be good. is flagged. Okay, good. So it needs to be a pick, but I need to be more particular than that because I'll have a lot of picks in there. I'm going to hit the plus sign. The plus sign lets us add more parameters to what we want in our smart collection. Then now when I do my stuff for portfolio, if I find it's a good image for portfolio, I have a keyword that is portfolio. So I would want other metadata. I believe it's underneath there. Come on. Keywords right here. So there's some dropouts here, so you do have to search a little bit until you get used to where they are. So I want images that are rated as a pick and are labeled portfolio. If they meet those two criteria, those 2 points of reference, it will automatically stick it in this folder for me. So I can go under other metadata keywords, and I want it to contain portfolio. And I just type in what it is. That name is already in use. Oh, because okay. We'll call it Smart Portfolio then. Okay, I can work around that. And I can just keep adding. If I want it to be, maybe I only want images that I have photographed, so maybe I'm going to have to go into the date, that the capture date is after January 1st of 2018. So only the images I've captured this year. You could do that. You could set any parameter, is between, whatever. You can do that. So now once I hit create, it's going to create a smart portfolio, and it's going to have a little sprocket next to it so you can identify it's a smart collection versus a whatever else. So that's the difference. Now I can change those parameters at any time, and it will automatically just repopulate everything that it needs to inside that folder, which is kind of cool. So if I decide I don't want a date restriction, I can go back in there by double clicking, and I could take that date off if I wanted to. Minus, save, and now I'm good to go. So I have 0 in there right now because I haven't tagged anything that meets that criteria. But if Drew's face, my test shot, he hates me for this, but look at that face. That's awesome. My test shot, and he was talking as I was doing it. That's the best image I've ever taken in my entire life. So that's going to be a portfolio image, and I'm making a massive print of this. So he's going to hate me. The fact that I'm recording this, and this is going to go up for all eternity. Seriously, wait till I tell him. So I'm going to flag this as a pick. So I hit the P key. Remember some of our quick keys? I hit the P key to pick it. So now it's tagged with a white flag on it. And now, since this is the best picture in the world, I'm also going to put portfolio. And if I have it preloaded in here, I can just click the button because it'll be in here somewhere. So I can hit portfolio. So now that it has met those 2 points of criteria in my smart portfolio collection, it populates it in there. So anytime I do that, maybe this is the next best image that I have created. Portfolio, I'm picking it. That's an amazing piece of work right there. And maybe there's another one down here. The wrong white balance attitude. Let's do that one too. That one, and that's portfolio. There we go. So as I do that, you can see, did it take it? It's populating my smart portfolio. It's just sticking it in there. So I have 3 images in there now. As I do that, anytime something meets it, it just goes in there. And now it's there. Quick way to filter, quick way to find things. Maybe you just want a collection for all your yellow images. So anytime you tag something yellow for that client that needs the yellow picture for the accent, it just will stick it in there. And then you just click. If you use it enough, it warrants its own collection. And it's just a very quick way to find it. I use it just, personally, just with my own kids. Every year they get a book. I create an actual printed book of things that we've done throughout the whole year. So I just tag their names in it, and I have a smart collection for each child. So that when it comes to making Cameron's book, I click Cameron's name, I filter it to just this year, this 2018, and then I pull the images and slap them in the book and send it off to print. So it makes finding that a heck of a lot quicker, especially when you got to make 3 of them. Yeah, Lenny, like I have a question.
If we edit that smart collection, and for example, they said, no, I don't want more picture that are flagged, they take the pictures out that were flagged.
The only way you can take the pictures out of there is if they don't meet the criteria. So if I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that image is good for a pic, like I would go back and edit that. But it's not portfolio quality. If I take that image and I take the portfolio keyword off, it just removes it.
No, but if I edit it from the smart collection, they will not take it out.
Oh, you're talking about like exporting it, or?
No, when I they say edit a smart collection. For
Mhm.
example, now I say I don't want the one that I have 5 stars. So all the 5 stars are going out of my collection, or they stay there because they were before there.
No, they would go out. So if I change this criteria to, like if I add that date restriction back in, date. Date, capture date is after September 1st. So if it has to be taken after September 1st, once I hit save, it updates it. Now I have nothing that was taken after September 1st. I do have something, but if I go back to that image, where is it? There we go. What was it? This one? Pick. So if I label this one portfolio again. So, come on. Go. So that image was taken after September 1st. So it would just reconfigure and repopulate what goes in there based on what you edit. Yep. And then if I were to take that off again and save it, now I have 3, because now 3 of them meet the criteria that's left. So smart collections are awesome. I don't think we use them enough. Okay, with my time here. Okay, syncing my catalogs, that's a different conversation. Adding copyright, I feel like I skipped one in here. Nope, okay. There is some more customizing. Let me just bring up your assignment to make sure with what time I have. I'm at least covering that. Is this not showing up at all for you guys?
They have like some.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Why did oh, yeah, that would help. Get it in the right year. It'll show up better if I do that. Whoops.
The one of the ice cream, no. The one that have a big house.
Yeah, they have.
There we go. It'd be nice if you guys could see that, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, that one. But they have the flower.
Okay, and this one I would need to turn back on.
You gotta have
I
like a
have
little
been
bit
there,
of
but I have
everything.
never seen the
Yeah.
18.
Everything.
There we go.
Yeah.
Here, I went through it last night and forgot to check the dates. Okay. So, some of the presets. Let me just make sure. Okay, custom, studio logo. Okay, I knew that was one of them. Is that the only other thing? Studio logo. Oh, the loop views. Okay. That's what I thought. I wanted to make sure. So, there are some things in chapters 3 and 4. So moving into chapter 4 a little bit with the customizing a little bit more, we did some of the templates, metadata preset, naming preset, that kind of stuff. There are ways to customize the look of Lightroom and what shows when we're looking at certain images in certain views. And that's kind of what I want to point out and focus on, because that's one of the things that I want you to do as part of your assignment. So when you are in grid view, so let me just get back to a bunch of images here. So when you're in grid view, you see a certain amount of information. You see, by default, you probably see a number. So it shows you, there's a small grayed out number in the background here. So it's showing you how many images, the number image based on however many are in there total. Has nothing to do with the name of the actual image. It's just grayed out 61 in the background here. But you also see like the name of it. You might see the little dots at the bottom so that you can attach, you can click your 5 stars if you want 5 stars in there. Rotating features, things like that. Those are all in there by default. But you may not want some of that stuff, and there's stuff that's not there that you may want. Even when you double click an image to view it a little bit larger, you might want to see certain information when you double click, whether temporarily, permanently, any of that stuff. You might want some of that. So we can customize that. It's basically, I'm trying to think of a faster way to get there. I don't want to do that. There's a menu option. I have to see where it is. Custom photo. I know. Yep. I know.
You can't even see the bump, it just looks like his hand.
And the shirt
Yeah.
hung straight down, so I had to have her like cup the bottom the whole time. It was very difficult. It was probably one of the more difficult maternity ones. She wanted to do just very basic. I'm like, okay, I can handle that. Good thing we did it when we did, though, because her blood pressure skyrocketed, and then 6 days later, she was forced to have that baby. Let's see here. I just want to see if there was a menu, because I can't remember where in the menu. I only remember the quickie, and that's all he talks about, too. Command J. Okay, I think it's under Library and View Options. Oh, maybe it's just our view here. Grid, sort. There is a spot in, there it is. Okay, I'm like, I know there's a menu option, but he doesn't even talk about it. So if you want to change what you see in certain views, you can either go under the View menu and View Options, or this is uniform across most software on many Macs, that when you hit Command J, it brings up view options or options for what you see and what you don't see, like in the Finder. So Command J is pretty uniform across the board. In Lightroom, what it does is it allows you to choose when you're in grid view. So when I'm seeing the thumbnails of everything, what you see and what you don't see. And in loop view, when you double click just to see a single image, what you see and what you don't see. So it doesn't matter what you select because you have the two tabs at the top to go back and forth and set them both at the same time. So in the grid view tab, I can choose to, let's see, tint grid cells. No, it's not going to show me a preview, is it? Maybe 50%. Tint grid cells with the label colors. Oh, gotcha. I don't have any label colors, so of course it's not going to do anything. I was thinking something else. I can choose to show my flags or not show my flags. I honestly don't know why you would uncheck that. I would think you would want that. There are little badges at the bottom right corner of every thumbnail. You can choose to show those or not show those. If those are distracting to you, you can turn them off. They all mean different things. We'll eventually get to explaining what each of those are, but you can choose to show those or not. So if they bother you, you can just uncheck them if they mean nothing to you. Otherwise, you can leave them there. But you can kind of go through here and see what you want and what you don't want. You have a lot of different options. When it comes to what shows above the image, as far as the header, you can choose to show certain things. So this would be the file name is what's showing here. So that's right above the image. I could choose to maybe show the file name below the image and, or no, these are just, oh, sorry, it's doing, okay, never mind. I see what it's doing. I don't want copy name. I want file extension maybe. So you can choose from this list all different things that when I have this image selected, oh, it's still not showing my cropped information because I'm probably not in expanded view. There we go. That when I'm in, I have an option, there's two options in grid view. I have compact cells, which is what most people are going to use, and I have expanded cells in the drop down in the top. And that just allows me to have a little bit more information here. My number, the size of my image, the file extension, all these things that I'm setting down at the bottom is for expanded cells. So if I need to see the file size of my image, I can do that. Honestly, you probably look at more of that when you're editing the photo or in loop view and stuff like that. So you probably won't change the compact cell, the view of your grid view a whole lot, aside from maybe if you want those thumbnail badges to show or not show. When you color code an image, if you tag an image to be, let's just label this one red. So if I want this one to be red, I can set the when I click off of it, I can set how bright that is, that opacity for it. Let me go back into, let me Command J this beast again. I can set that opacity to be different things. You can see how it's just 20%, 10%, how it gets lighter or darker. So you can change that based on your preference. But yeah, you can change any one of these. Then when you switch over to loop view is when you're viewing just that single image. It's that second view option in at the bottom. It's that second image. So what you can do is choose an overlay option when you first click on an image. This is kind of nice when you're flipping through images that are very similar. So right now you can see it's showing me because I checked that box, it's showing me the file name, the date, the time, and the size of the image. Whatever you feel is important when you're viewing just a single image at a time, maybe it's just the name of it is all you really need, you can choose that in here. And you have two different options so that you can change back and forth without having to change all the settings. So if I want one to show file name, like this one shows capture date and time dimensions, this one shows exposure ISO and my lens setting. So if I would rather see that, I can change my view option to show the second one, and then I will always see my camera settings. I tend to preference that more than anything. So I always, like on mine, I have that checked so I can see it, but I only want to see it temporarily. I don't want it there permanently or it's going to drive me crazy, especially in a horizontal image. So I can choose here to show this message when loading or rendering. So it's temporarily and then it disappears. I like that feature. You could uncheck it, but then it will be there all the time. I don't know if you're going to want that. So it just shows temporarily. So it shows and then it's going to disappear eventually, maybe, kind of. Or not. I did uncheck it, right? Show message when loading or rendering. Yep. So go away. Oh, here. Why is it not? Show briefly when photo changes. This is what I want. Why are you not letting me change this? Do I have to uncheck it? No. Show frame? No. Why are you not letting me check this? Quit being a beast. What am I missing? One setting. I should be able to check that so that it goes away. General show message. It should disappear. Oh my gosh. What is this thing doing? It's getting crazy. Come on, click. Oh, that's blurry. Is it gonna disappear now? Why are you not disappearing? Why are you not letting me change it is the question. I should be able to check that so that it shows when I change the photo and then it disappears. But it is not. I am missing something. That's the problem. When you have it set up once in your catalog, you never change it again because you have it set the way you want, and then you forget how to do it. That's the problem. Come on, where is it? Choosing what you see in grid view, choosing what I see in loop view. I cannot check that box. Anytime you want to start over, just click use the defaults.
Just on the top right here.
Yeah, see, you can check yours. Why can't I check mine? Maybe you guys can and I just can't. I don't know. What is it? Ow, my foot's falling asleep. But your check boxes are available. So when you click on loop view, you can check this box down here. I cannot. I'm trying to figure out why mine is.
Maybe.
Mine is doing that.
You're on loop view on there, maybe? I don't know. It just only applies to grid.
No, because they're two different tabs. I'll have to figure out why mine does. So I don't know if anyone's playing and has the same problem that I have. But I should be able just to check that. I'm not sure why mine's not letting me. I'll have to look into that. because it looks like Robinson can do it on his, but I don't know if anyone else is able to do it too. So you should be able to check that box, and then it will disappear after you see your images momentarily. Oh, here we go. Never mind. That's what it was. Sorry. Right here. I had this checked to show info overlay, which makes it a permanent option. Whoops, that was my bad there. So if I uncheck that, I can now check show briefly when the photo changes. That's why I couldn't do it. I saw it out of the corner of my eye when you flipped back and forth there. Okay, so now when I switch images, it's briefly going to show me this information, and then it will disappear after a few seconds. Ta-da, there it goes. That's a really good option to have so that you can see the information, but you really only need to see it to make sure you've got the right things selected, or that's what I want to look at, whatever. So you can customize that to show what you want, and then it just shows briefly, and then you're good to go. There it is. I had the box checked at the top. Whoops. That was my bad. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to show you is customizing. I just want to get you the page number. Here it is. It's on page 122 in chapter 4. Customizing, so it's more for you. However, if you decide to use Lightroom to show whoever you're working with, if you decide to show them images through Lightroom, it's nice to have that branding piece for yourself. Everything we do, we want to focus on having, a brand for yourself, so people don't get confused when they see your photography. They recognize your logo, or they recognize the name, stuff like that. So you can customize this upper left-hand corner. Probably just says your name right now, whatever it logs into the computer as. It's the default. You can change that to be whatever you want. If you have a logo, you can make it your logo in that upper left corner. If you just want the text with the name of whatever you call your studio or business or whatever it is, you can change that. So if you right click in that upper left corner, you can edit your identity plate. And in here, you can choose to either use text or use a graphic. And you can create a graphic in Photoshop if you want to, and then you just drag and drop it in there, or you click the Locate File button, and then it will bring it up. You can change the font if you want a different font for what appears up at the top here. By default, it's, and now I just reset it, it's Myriad Pro. So you can change the font if you don't like the font. But in this upper corner, you can put a picture in if you want. Now, you do have to keep in mind, does he give us the dimensions in here? If it's too big, you'll only see a portion of it. So let's see. He does not tell us. Oh, all he said was make sure the graphic, if you decide to put a graphic in that upper left corner, like with a logo and a name, no taller than 57 pixels so that it doesn't clip off the top and the bottom. So he notes that. So as long as it's no more than 57 pixels tall, you will see the whole thing in that upper left corner. So you can create a document in Photoshop. I would save it as a PNG file. Yep, so that it has a transparent background, and then upload it in there. Otherwise, you just type whatever you want. So I could do, maybe, let me type. There it goes. Oops. There we go. I'm going to make this smaller. I can change my font size. So you can type it in here. You can do whatever you want. I don't know, maybe I want this to be more of a frilly whatever type of font, and they're not going to have what I want, so something weird it is. There we go. We'll just change it. And I'll make this one italic so that you can see the difference. And that one's going to be red. There. So I can change it to whatever I want, and you'll see it changes it in the display at the top right off the bat, so you can see what it looks like. So we can change that and customize that to who we are and what we do. It's a nice thing to do, especially when other people may have to look at it, but it's also just a small branding piece for you. So it's kind of a cool part. And then when you hit OK, it's there. And you're good to go. So it's easy to change. You do it once, you probably won't touch it again. That's all there is to it. Hard thing about chapter 3 and 4 is a lot of it's a one-time deal and a one-time setup, and then you forget after that. That's why the book's a good reference. Okay, there are a few other things within those chapters, so one thing I noted was just kind of to flip through the rest of chapters 3 and 4 to make sure that you catch some of those other things. We're going to start moving forward into editing over the next week. So for next week, what I want you to do is create a few presets and think about some keywords. That's the main part of this assignment right here. This assignment you do not need to submit your catalog for. Because these are all presets, I need you to take a bunch of screenshots and submit screenshots. Because unless I watch you do it, I don't know that you've done it. Because they don't transfer between computers. So the first thing is to think and brainstorm your keywords. So I just used wedding as an example, and I brainstormed a whole bunch of keywords that could potentially be tied to my images for weddings. Because like when I do an album, I have a page with just the bride. So I do tag the bride in the images, and then I do tag the wedding party. So when I do, so it's easy to filter when I do those pages. So for me, my keywording for weddings is a little more extensive than what it is in other areas, but that's why I use it as an example. And then what I want you to do is actually load those keywords into Lightroom. You can simply, this brainstorm of keywords, it can be a typed list in Word if you want it to be. It can be just written on a piece of paper and you take a snapshot with your phone and then we just upload that picture. Whatever you want it to be. You can scan it if you really feel like it. I don't care. But that's the first thing, is to do that. So using these keywords, I want you to create a smart collection. I want you to create a smart collection that will have one or more keywords. If it were my wedding images, it would be reception and dance. So I want dancing pictures from the reception. So I would set a collection that has those 2 keywords, it must have, and it's a pick, or maybe if it's a 5-star, whatever you do for your images. For me, it's a pick. So it's my images that I use as a pick, meaning they're good images with those keywords attached. That's what I do. That's what I could create a smart collection of. Now I want you to take a screenshot of that. So everywhere I bolded all of them. Take a screenshot of the smart collection box before you click it. You will have to label all of your screenshots for this one. Last week was not an issue because there was one that you needed to submit. This week we have several, so you are going to need to label them. So I tell you exactly what you have to label for each one. So you'll have a smart collection screenshot. Then you're going to create that custom studio name or logo in the upper left corner. You're going to take a screenshot of that and label it. Then I want you to customize Loop View and take a screenshot of how you change that. I'm kind of letting you choose what you want because I want you to be able to use it, but you're just going to customize something a little different than what is default. And then you'll take a screenshot of that. Then you're going to do a preset. I want you to do a custom metadata template. I have outlined a minimum of what you need to put in there. If you want to add more to it, go for it. That's just typical of what most people would use. So you'll fill in that information and save that as a preset. I want you to take a screenshot of the preset dialog box so that I can see all the presets that you have checked. So that's the trickiest part, is that when you are creating your metadata preset, make sure I can see all of this stuff. So if you have more stuff down here, you will either have to expand this window or maybe collapse some of these if all this other stuff is open. So make sure that I can see all of it when you take a screenshot of that. That's the big thing. Don't save. And that should be it for this assignment. So you will submit the screenshots next week and not the catalog. So it's going to be 5 screenshots total, and then just your brainstorm keyword list. So whether that's a snapshot or a picture of your phone or a Word doc, whatever it happens to end up being, it's fine with me. So we'll submit that and the 5 screenshots. That's all you need for next week. Make sense? Whew, I made it.